An illusion it will be. So large, so vast, it will escape their perception. Those who will see it will be thought of as insane.
This is a book right here, written by President Donald Trump, The Way to the Top. Look at this. One day, when my Kabbalah teacher, his Kabbalah teacher, that's Ben right out there. Where was that when he was vetted?
After graduation, he lived at home while commuting to Fordham University in the Bronx.
The recruits will be called initiates and will be indoctrinated to believe false rites of passage to higher realms.
Any multitude of gifts could have been given to Pope Francis, but out of these multitudes, Donald Trump chose the lotus. As the Egyptian Book of the Dead states, is Donald affirming that he carries the message or gift of Horus, an enlightened message essentially from Lucifer.
We will recruit some of their own to carry out our plans.
Burdened by debt, the Taj would not turn a profit. By that winter, as Rothman predicted, the casino was in serious trouble. Trump's other investments had not fared much better. The Plaza Hotel, a financial disaster. The airline Trump Shuttle was bleeding money. Trump and his companies owed more than $3 billion, much of it to the banks that had fueled his spending spree.
They wanted their money and they wanted to be rid of Donald Trump.
The bankers descended on Trump Tower.
Bankers held gigantic meetings at Trump Tower with like 40 banks.
The banks came to believe that Trump's assets, the buildings, the casinos, were worth more with his name on them than in foreclosure.
The Trump princess is said to have a price.
They sold the yacht and the airline.
Trump may have to unload the Trump shuttle, worth about.
And they put Trump on a $450,000 a month allowance. In exchange, he would continue to promote the business.
For their work, they will be rewarded with earthly things and great titles.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear, will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
We will establish a money system that will imprison them forever, keeping them and their children in debt.
So you're talking about a $6.2 trillion bill, nothing like that, and this will deliver urgently needed relief to our nation's families, workers, and businesses, and that's what this is all about. And it got a 96-0, but I want to thank Republicans and Democrats for coming together, setting aside their differences, and putting America first. All right, thank you all.
We will take over their land, resources, and wealth to exercise total control over them. They will perform the labor for us, and we shall prosper from their toil. We will deceive them into accepting laws that will steal the little freedom they will have.
Gun violence restraining orders, they're called. California actually has a version of this, and I think in your meeting with governors earlier this week, individually and as a group, we spoke about states taking steps, but the focus is to literally give families and give local law enforcement additional tools if an individual is reported to be a potential danger to themselves or others. Allow due process so that no one's rights are trampled, but the ability to go to court, obtain an order, and then collect not only the firearms, but any weapons in the possession of that individual.
Or might take the firearms first and then go to court, because that's another system, because a lot of times by the time you go to court, it takes so long to go to court to get the due process procedures. I like taking the guns early, like in this crazy man's case that just took place in Florida. He had a lot of firearms. They saw everything. To go to court would have taken a long time. So you could do exactly what you're saying, but take the guns first, go through due process second.
They will be helpless to do anything, for they will have no weapons.
President Trump at the White House today addressing the nation after 2 mass shootings in less than 24 hours.
We are outraged and sickened by this monstrous evil.
offering a solution to stopping gun violence.
That is why I have called for red flag laws, also known as extreme risk protection orders.
It's a law going into effect here in New York at the end of the month. Governor Andrew Cuomo signed the red flag law legislation in February. Parents, teachers, law enforcement can all report people who they believe are a threat to themselves or others. If there's enough evidence, authorities can prevent them from ever getting guns or take away guns they already have.
We must make sure that those judged to pose a grave risk to public safety do not have access to firearms, and that if they do, those firearms can be taken through rapid due process.
The new law gives authorities in New York the power to confiscate guns before any crime is committed.
Look at me. Positive for Howard Marks. I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks and Donald Ďurbán that was to take place today, April 22nd, at 0800 hours and 4 minutes. No.
John, don't run.
Everybody runs, Fletch.
So as we continue to mourn the loss of so many precious young lives in Parkland, Florida, we're determined to turn our grief into action. I'm the biggest fan of the Second Amendment. Many of you are. I'm a big fan of the NRA, but I had lunch with them, with Wayne and Chris and David, on Sunday, and said, it's time. We got to stop this nonsense. It's time.
Our goal will be accomplished one drop at a time, so as to never bring suspicion upon ourselves. This will also prevent them from seeing the changes as they occur.
So we're knocking out bump stocks. I've told the NRA, I've told it, bump stocks are gone.
US President Donald Trump has signed an order to outlaw bump stock devices for guns. It's his first step during his administration towards tightening firearms regulations. He's also said he may consider other restrictions after last week's school shooting in Florida. The move would bypass Congress, where legislation to ban bump stocks has failed since an October massacre in Las Vegas.
Drop by drop, drop by drop, we will advance our goal.
But I say when somebody burns the American flag, they should go to jail for 1 year. I say that. No, I really, we're going to do that, and because, you know, I thought I could just like institute and maybe do an executive order. Oh, you can't do that, sir. It has to go through a whole big deal. You know, they talk about freedom of speech, and I'm a big believer in freedom of speech, but that's desecration. That's a terrible thing they do. We used to have things, we don't have them anymore because we want to be so open, so everything, and look what happens.
President Trump about to hold a news conference on the coronavirus crisis.
Citizens, permanent residents, and our families, any of the families returning from Europe will be subject to extra screening as well as self-isolation for a period of 14 days. To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency.
We will keep their lifespan short and their minds weak while pretending to do the opposite. We will use our knowledge of science and technology in subtle ways, so they will never see what is happening.
They have to get the shot. The vaccinations are so important. This is really going around now. They have to get their shot.
They have never been safe. Never has there been a safe vaccine. Never will there be a safe vaccine, and it is not possible to have a safe vaccine.
And when you start getting the answers to why and how, you get traced back to the origins of medicine, which began with the Rockefeller dynasty to some degree. And when you start to see the origins of the cancer industry and of the medical industry and the AMA and the vaccine industry, it's all pretty much the same group and it comes from the same stem.
In the time that I have become a quack, myself and my patients have become healthier than they ever were at the time when I was not a quack. No vaccines increase the health of a population because vaccines do not increase the health of a human. There's nothing in a vaccine that our bodies actually require. We don't require aluminium, we don't require mercury, polysorbate 80, we don't require formaldehyde, and those are some of the things that are commonly in vaccines.
But what the graphs reveal is the decline in mortality before the vaccines or the antibiotics ever came on the scene. And it tells the story around that, the historical story of why people were dying, what was making people so sick, what was keeping them sick, and what the revolution actually was that got the mortality down by over 99% before the measles vaccine, for instance, came on the scene. And it had nothing to do with medical interventions. It had nothing to do with doctors or with antibiotics. What it had to do more with were plumbers and sanitation workers and good social programs and nutrition.
Those they look up to will help. We will enlist them to push our poisons.
So how do you convince me? How do you convince the other parents out there that we need to do this?
Careful, I'm going to get it.
Yes.
If that helps at all, but I'll tell you, my wife is not going to immunize our kids.
Are they saying that we are just too stupid to notice that this is killing people and maiming people?
When their ability to learn has been affected, we will create medicine that will make them sicker and cause other diseases for which we will create yet more medicine. We will render them docile and weak before us by our power. They will grow depressed, slow, and obese. And when they come to us for help, we will give them more poison.
On November 2nd, he and his wife got their flu shots. Then the very next day, Morgan felt like he came down with a bad cold. But things quickly got worse.
I'm having trouble focusing on stuff. It's like my eyes just wouldn't pull images together. It's just and I didn't think that much of it. I thought it was my inner ears messing with me from all the sickness that I'd had. And I got up to go use the bathroom, and I realized I couldn't walk. You know, and then my legs were like rubber, and my hands were totally numb.
His wife, Monique, rushed him to the ER. Morgan had to be put into a coma, spending 23 days at Centennial Hospital.
Remember the swine flu scare of 1976? That was the year the U.S. government told us all that swine flu could turn out to be a killer that could spread across the nation. And Washington decided that every man, woman, and child in the nation should get a shot to prevent a nationwide outbreak, a pandemic. Well, 46 million of us obediently took the shot. And now 4,000 Americans are claiming damages from Uncle Sam amounting to $3.5 billion because of what happened when they took that shot. By far the greatest number of the claims, 2/3 of them, are for neurological damage or even death.
One of those who did roll up her sleeve was Judy Roberts. She was perfectly healthy, an active woman, when in November of 1976, she took her shot. 2 weeks later, she says, she began to feel a numbness starting up her legs.
I joked about it at that time. I said I'll be numb to the knees by Friday if this keeps up. By the following week, I was totally paralyzed.
So completely paralyzed, in fact, that they had to operate on her to enable her to breathe. And for 6 months, Judy Roberts was a quadriplegic.
Let me put it very clearly. You have no constitutional right to endanger the public and spread a disease, even if you disagree. You have no right not to be vaccinated. You have no right not to wear a mask. You have no right to open up your business. And if you refuse to be vaccinated, the state has the power to literally take you to a doctor's office and plunge a needle into your arm.
Well, when we have the vaccine, we have the military all lined up, and the military is going to be doing it in a very powerful manner. These are people that don't usually do vaccines. They do soldiers, and they do lots of other things that, frankly, are more difficult. But we have our general, and logistically, he's all set.
After a career as an Army supply officer, General Gus Perna was 2 months away from retirement when President Trump tapped him last May to lead Operation Warp Speed.
What is D-Day? The day that we deliver the first round of vaccine for Pfizer.
Are you ready to go if a vaccine is approved tomorrow?
Yes, we are.
What's the first order you're going to give?
It's a simple command of execute.
So once you say execute,
How fast does it get out there?
Within 24 hours.
Once it starts moving, whether on a truck or a plane, is it going to be under guard?
Yes. That's as far as I'm going to talk about it, though, right? Because you don't want to lay out all the plans.
What's your worst nightmare?
We get vaccines to the American people and they don't take them. Shame on us. Hey, I was already sick. I don't need it. Shame on us. Hey, I don't believe in vaccines. Shame on us. Just shame on us. And it does keep me up at night.
When our goal is accomplished, a new era of domination will begin.
The president, in a surprise appearance in the Rose Garden, revealing he's considering going around Congress altogether by invoking emergency national security powers to get the wall he wants.
We can call a national emergency and build it very quickly, and it's another way of doing it. But if we can do it through a negotiated process, we're giving that a shot.
The truth will be hidden in their face, so close they will not be able to focus on it until it is too late. Oh yes, so grand the illusion of freedom will be that they will never know that they are our slaves.
What authority do you have?
Well, I have the ultimate authority. The President of the United States calls the shots. If we weren't here for the states, you would have had a problem in this country like you've never seen before.
You said when someone is President of the United States, their authority is total. That is not true. Who
Okay,
told
you know what we're
that?
going to do? We're going to write up papers on this. It's not going to be necessary because the governors need us one way or the other, because ultimately it comes with the federal government. Well, yeah, please, go ahead.
Has any governor agreed that you have the authority to decide when their state
I haven't
opens
asked
back up?
anybody because
But
I
no
don't.
one has
You know why? Because I don't have to. Go ahead, please.
But who told you the president has the total authority?
Enough. When somebody's the President of the United States, the authority is total. And that's the way it's got to be.
Your authority is total.
It's total. It's total.
Look, from the standpoint of the Constitution.
Yes, constitutionally.
You thought it should be up to the governors.
You can look at constitutionally, you can look at federalism, you can look at it any different way. John, the fact that I don't want to exert my power is much different. We have the power. Does the federal government have the power? The federal government has absolute power. It has the power. As to whether or not I'll use that power, we'll see.
We will continue to prosper from their wars and their death. We shall repeat this over and over until our ultimate goal is accomplished.
Great nations do not fight endless wars.
Donald Trump's pitch to make America great again included a commitment to rethinking America's interventionist foreign policy.
We went from mistakes in Iraq to Egypt to Libya to President Obama's line in the sand in Syria. Each of these actions have helped to throw the region into chaos.
Trump's promise to unwind America's foreign commitments won the vote of some anti-war libertarians. On the campaign trail, Trump attacked Clinton for pushing U.S. intervention in Libya as Secretary of State, and her 2002 vote in the Senate for the Iraq War.
He called into question the need for America to invade countries, to change their regimes, and to stay there as occupation forces. Specifically, he called into question the Iraq War.
Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake. We spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives. We don't even have it. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
Trump isn't the first modern president to promise an end to foreign entanglements on the campaign trail, only to double down on those commitments once in office. Candidate Barack Obama called Iraq a dumb war that he would end and never replicate. Just because America's actual wars aren't on the news every night doesn't mean they're any closer to ending. Trump hasn't invaded any new countries, but he has ramped up the nearly 19-year-long $2 trillion Afghanistan war that's cost the lives of tens of thousands of Afghanis and more than 3,500 U.S. and NATO troops. Trump added thousands more troops in 2017 and dropped more bombs and missiles in 2019 than in any previous recorded year. Instead of withdrawing troops from Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, he vowed to stop publicly reporting their numbers.
We will not talk about numbers of troops or our plans for further military activities.
Horton points out Trump has increased U.S. involvement in Yemen and Somalia.
These are two of America's most horrible wars, and no one pays any attention to them whatsoever. And hundreds of thousands of people have died, mostly because of the famine and the difficulties. And it is a war that is designed deliberately to inflict as much punishment as possible on the civilian population of the country, deliberately targeting water, electricity, sewage, hospitals, and farms. Anything that is to support the infrastructure of civilian life in that country. It's a deliberate medieval siege campaign.
And Trump has continued and escalated the war on terror, which could make the U.S. susceptible to getting involved in even more conflicts around the globe.
Worst aspect of the Trump foreign policy is that he's a mass murderer just like the rest of them.
When all is in place, the reality we will have created for them will own them. This reality will be their prison. They will live in self-delusion.
But I woke up and I felt good. I said, get me out of here. Boom, Superman. Through Operation Warp Speed, we will have 100 million vaccine doses before the end of the year, and our military is going to distribute them, and there's nobody like our military.
When they shall band together, we shall accuse them of crimes and present a different story to the world, for we shall own all the media. We will use our media to control the flow of information and their sentiment in our favor.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Hello, I'm from the U.S. government. Does something feel wrong in the world, but you can't put your finger on it? Are you yearning to fight injustice and be part of something bigger? Do you do your own research? If so, you've been chosen to participate in our new PSYOP. QAnon. PSYOPs are usually carried out by our intelligence agencies in countries we've invaded or whose governments we've overthrown, in order to convince the local population that we're there to help them. QAnon is just like that, except the target isn't a foreign population. It's you. And the government we're planning to overthrow is... Follow the White Rabbit. At the heart of this PSYOP is Q, a government insider who will give you advance warning about major events, like the arrest of Hillary and deep state leaders, which never happened, and the end of the Democratic Party in 2018, who actually went on to win the House that year. And if years of fake predictions start to get you down, don't worry. Trust the plan. The best part of this PSYOP is you'll believe you're in a PSYOP, except that's not the PSYOP you're actually in, but the PSYOP where we let you think you're in a PSYOP. PSYOPception. All we have to do is tell 𝙄𝙡𝙀 to say tip top next to a white rabbit. Q-proof. Joining QAnon is easy because at its core there are some truths. Like, the media really does lie to you. There really are powerful predators out there, and there really is a global pedophile ring that ritually abuses kids. But as you follow Q's droppings, you'll gradually LARP yourself deep into the rabbit's rectum, where you'll find others who yearn to fight injustice just like you. The 5G crew, the Plandemic crowd, the FEMA camps, and chemtrail folks too. All LARP together into a single LARP we can control. Where we LARP one, we LARP all. Q has convinced patriots, even the guy who spent decades warning you about the police state and martial law, that martial law is now a good thing. What's that? When do we take down the deep state? Aw, honey. The guy who exposed the real deep state is being tortured by it right now. And where are you? Oh, that's right. Q told you to trust the plan and have a big circle jerk on Aiken. QAnon. Nothing can stop what's coming, because you'll be sitting on your ass when it does.
We will establish their governments and establish opposites within. We will own both sides. We will always hide our objective, but carry out our plan.
You know, I'll tell you, there is something that I wanted to say, because I was very honored, very, very honored, when I heard that President Bill Clinton and Secretary Hillary Clinton was coming today, and I think it's appropriate to say And I'd like you to stand up. I'd like you to stand up. And honestly, there's nothing more I can say because I have a lot of respect for those two people. So thank you all for being here. And we're going to have 4 great years, hopefully of peace and prosperity. We'll be working very, very hard. Our cabinet's lined up and ready. I know eventually Chuck's going to approve them, I'm sure. I really believe that. And we're all dealing together. We all want the same thing. We're all good people. Whether you're a Republican or Democrat, doesn't make any difference. We're going to get along.
We will control all aspects of their lives and tell them what to think and how. We will guide them kindly and gently, letting them think they are guiding themselves. We will foment animosity between them through our factions. When a light shall shine among them, we shall extinguish it by ridicule or death, whichever suits us best. The hate will blind them totally, and never shall they see that from their conflicts we emerge as their rulers.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail. I didn't think I'd say this, but I'm going to say it. And I hate to say it. But if I win, I am going to instruct my Attorney General to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation.
We will create separate fronts to prevent them from seeing the connection between us. We will behave as if we are not connected, to keep the illusion alive.
Hillary's a great friend of mine. Her husband is a great friend of mine. They're fantastic people. I mean, you know the thing, they get a bad knock. She's a very nice woman. People think tough, and I guess she's tough, but she's a very nice woman, and he's a very nice guy. We know all about the smarts and how smart they are, and all, but they are good people.
If they ever find out that together they can vanquish us, they will take action. They must never, ever find out what we have done. For if they do, we shall have no place to run, for it will be easy to see who we are once the veil has fallen. Our actions will have revealed who we are, and they will hunt us down, and no person shall give us shelter.
For the first time ever tomorrow, Americans nationwide will receive an alert on their cell phones from President Trump. But it won't be a personal message. It's the first test of a national presidential alert system that will let any president issue a warning about a crisis. That could include a missile launched by another country at the U.S. or a tsunami.
So we all know it's coming tomorrow at 2:18.
Good night, folks. God bless each and every single one of you. Good night, Pooh, my darling sweetheart. Good night, Allison, you vibrant little bundle of joy. You know, this house is haunted. I can hear you girls screaming and playing all the time. Annie, you're the love of my life. You always will be the love of my life. And I miss you. I miss you all terribly, terribly much.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the debate for the Illinois Senate seat between Republican candidate Mayor Richard Campbell and Democratic candidate Dr. Ronald Burnham. Mayor Campbell won the coin toss backstage, so he will be answering first. And the question is, do you believe in sacrificing certain civil liberties to guarantee national security?
What people need to understand is that the rules we live by during peacetime no longer apply. America is at war.
No. What folks have to comprehend is that the laws we abide by are no longer applicable. America is in a non-peacetime period.
No. The government must be allowed to bend the laws in order to protect its people.
I disagree. The administration should be allowed to take liberties with the rules to defend its citizens.
You don't know what you're talking about.
And you, sir, are unaware of the words that are coming out of your mouth.
Gentlemen, please try not to interrupt each other. Thank you. Dr. Burnham, you'll answer the next question first. Where do you stand on welfare reform?
Welfare is like a Band-Aid. It can cover a wound, but it cannot heal it.
That is totally untrue. Welfare is like an adhesive strip that goes over an open sore and cannot provide a permanent remedy.
Mayor, I can't believe what I'm hearing. These people need jobs.
Doctor, my ears must be deceiving me. These citizens need employment.
But don't you think that work gives the common man self-esteem?
No! An occupation gives a person self-respect. America needs to get back on its feet.
Untrue. America needs to get back on its heels, arches, and toes. We need to return to the America that our grandfathers broke their backs to create.
Wrong. We need to return to the country that our fathers' fathers snapped their spines in order to make.
Oh, please. Your grandfather was nothing more than a bootlegger who made liquor in copper tubs and sold it to people who lived in shanty towns.
Well, at least my grandfather wasn't an illegal alcohol maker who created booze in a metallic vat, which was later purchased by impoverished residents of ghettos.
You are a big liar.
And you are a large-sized non-truth teller. Would you listen to his mudslinging? It's this kind of talk that is tearing this country apart. That's what you're doing.
That.
What America needs right now is to come together as one. He wants to divide this country. Excuse me? That's ludicrous. My platform will help unify America. I believe in welfare reform, homeland security, school uniforms. What? That's my platform, you thief. And let me tell you something else, you pompous windbag. You're the reason America is such a mess. Oh, I'm the reason, am I? Well, if I'm a pompous windbag, then you're a jackass. How dare you call me a jackass? Look, he was going to hit me. I feel sorry for the American people that this is all they have to choose from. I refuse to share the same stage as you. Where do you think you're going? I'm leaving the stage. Oh, really? Well, which exit are you going to take? This one. No, I'm taking this one. Fine, I'll take this one. If you want an original thinker in office, vote for me.